Hey, Kevin Martin here, your UT admissions guy, filming on my February 2nd around 1 p.m., which I think is February 1st around 11 o'clock in the United States Central Time. About 3 or 4 hours ago, this was the big decision release day. UT finally decided at the midnight hour to release all offers, seems like from both November 1st and December 1st applicants. This is uh, concordant with how they've done things in the past where they do the admissions offers in one big batch at the very end of the process. Like many of you on Reddit and elsewhere in the college admissions universe, I wish UT would just tell people when they're going to release their decisions, other than it being like, oh, anytime between the end of November until February 1st, the evening. So I was on Reddit a few days ago. I did an AMA there. It was pretty fun, but I really feel bad for you guys having to wait for all of this time, but at least this year they did everything in one big batch because in previous years they like released all the admissions offers on one day and then like all of the rejection and cap offers on another day, which was really brutal. So I'm glad that that didn't happen this year. There's a lot of weird issues, technical errors with my status. I think they just like didn't hire an IT or system administrator person to make sure the website works. But hey, since they have like a top 10 computer science program, maybe there's some enterprising incoming freshmen who'd be happy to fix their My Status portal and whatever backend database issues that they're having. So I record this video every year. I think this is the 9th time I've done it since 2016. Every year it's a little bit different. Every year it's kind of the same. And I just want to share some thoughts about receiving your offer, about CAP, changing your majors, at UT if you did gain admission but not to your first choice major, and we can talk about the appeals process, which I call a lottery because it pretty much is. UT doesn't do a wait list or a deferral, and they use appeals as like the pool to fill the remaining spaces for their enrollment management team to get that correct distribution of spaces in all the different majors. And then I'll conclude with a brief discussion about external transferring if you want to go to one 2-year college or 4-year university to another, and then continue your studies at UT Austin after a year or two. So look, first thing I'll say is congratulations to everyone that gained admission into their first choice major. It's a big accomplishment. UT has become more than twice as competitive since when I worked there at the end of 2013. We don't know how many application numbers that they received. I think last year was like 66,000. Wouldn't surprise me if they had 70,000 or maybe a bit more. This year, UT, like many elite universities, are not especially transparent with their data, especially as it comes to disaggregating that data for specific colleges and schools. So we don't actually know how many spaces are in computer science and how many admissions offers are delivered for those programs in business or electrical computer engineering, geosciences, and so on. Top 6% only guarantees non-STEM majors. So that's like liberal arts, communications, education, and social work. So for all of you that didn't gain admission for one reason or another, top 6% usually doesn't have much to do with that, since a lot of you are applying to STEM majors or business where top 6% doesn't guarantee anything. So I know some top 6% students out there gained admission to UT but not to their first choice major, which is a big disappointment. Changing your major at UT is also really difficult, especially if you want something in STEM or business. 4.0s at UT do not guarantee admission to business or computer science or electrical computer engineering. So if you are one of those top 6% students that is considering enrolling at UT for a non-STEM major, I would exercise caution about that pathway because although like UT may be your number one dream school, like you believe for an Orange, if you don't have a pathway to finishing that engineering or business degree, you might want to consider alternative universities where you for sure have a pathway to getting that 4-year degree in your desired major. For those students that didn't gain admission, I'm sorry. It sucks. I know that many of you have worked for your entire lives. You've done everything that's expected of you, asked of you in and out of the classroom, and all I have to say is sorry. And I know it's disappointing. I know it's frustrating. I'm already getting a lot of emails from students who are my clients or students who are not my clients who are upset with their admissions offer. And the first piece of advice I can give is just to let it sit, chill out. If you want to take the day off from school tomorrow, whatever. I mean, just take care of your mental health. Go bang on the drums, eat a bunch of ice cream, binge watch your favorite TV shows, play video games, go outside, whatever. There's no action that needs to be taken right now. I know it's like a big whirlwind of emotions, and I know that these admissions offers are always a family thing. It's not just the student. A lot of teachers will get attached to their kids, and so I know this disappointment bleeds through a lot. beyond just the students. So I wish you all the best as you practice self-care. If you have any questions, concerns, reach out to me. But and we can talk about appeals and CAP and these other programs, but the reality is you should assume that UT will not be an option for you for fall 2024. And so, I recommend that you enroll at your second or third top choice university and make the most of those opportunities when you enroll. I know there's a lot of amazing opportunities at UT Austin and unparalleled resources than offered at other universities in the state of Texas, but I remain a believer that what you do and why you study what you study and how you behave yourself and as a student, as a person, when you arrive on your university campus matters more than where you enroll, because there's lots of students that go to UT that don't make the most of their opportunities. And so, as I'll discuss at the end of this video, if you think you want to do an external transfer in the future, then you just have to make the most of your time over the next semester or year, both academically and extracurricularly, wherever you decide to enroll. So. For those of you that did not gain admission, you would have received, if you're a Texas resident, the Coordinated Admissions Program, or CAP. CAP is only offered to Texas residents. It's not offered to out-of-state students, not eligible for international students either. You can't ask for CAP. Sometimes I get that question. And coordinated admissions only really helps if you want liberal arts. There's literally zero other benefit, no benefit to doing CAP at all, unless you want liberal arts. It guarantees a liberal arts transfer if you have a 3.2 GPA or higher. You enroll at a UT system school. That CAP portal will open on a specified time, and if you want the two most in-demand schools at San Antonio or Arlington, then you need to be on your computer on multiple devices, smashing refresh and trying to get your CAP contract in, because those spaces at San Antonio and Arlington literally fill up within 5 minutes. So, but again, CAP doesn't guarantee anything for business or natural sciences or engineering or computer science. And those spaces are just as competitive as if you went to another university or two-year community college. So for that reason, CAP is not really a good fit for a lot of students, especially if you want STEM or a business major. However, if you're a non-STEM student and you're like, oh, maybe I could go for liberal arts or communications or education, or you're kind of open, then CAP's not the worst idea, because then you can at least begin your studies at a four-year university. And irrespective of where you go in the state of Texas, whether it's a public school, private school, two-year or four-year, all of those credits are guaranteed to transfer to any university within the state of Texas, including Rice or SMU, TCU. So that's about CAP. Already discussed changing your majors. That's pretty tough to do at UT. So again, I exercise caution there. It's also a weird thing if you try and transfer into UT for one major and then try and internally transfer again once you arrive. It just gets very complicated. I have students that do that every year, and also not a pathway I recommend. Let's talk about appeals. So appeals is it's a bit of a misnomer. Starting probably in 2019, I think this was the first year that appeals was really weird. It used to be a pretty standardized process before 2019, and it used to just be everybody got denied. Nobody got in on appeals. It just didn't happen. Back in those days as well, UT used to use a waiting list, so they just filled spaces like most other normal conventional universities that have a wait list, or defer applicants to the regular decision pool, which UT does neither of those. So they use appeals to fill those final spaces in their major at the university. And what this means is universities have a big guessing game where UT's trying to enroll 8,500, maybe 9,000 students, something like that. And they admit 16,000, 17,000, 18,000 students. Again, we're not sure. We won't know that data until maybe 6 months or a year from now, but the admissions numbers themselves, it's kind of academic. UT's really hard. That's the takeaway. It's really hard for everybody, whether you're in-state or out-of-state or international. And so they have to do this guessing game where they estimate, okay, 45 to 50% of our admitted students are going to enroll, right? But if they're off in either direction, if they under-enroll their students, and let's say they want 8,500 and they've enrolled 7,800, well, they have to fill those final 500 to 700 spaces. And the way that UT fills those spaces seems to be with appeals. However, if a university over-enrolls, or they overshoot their yield estimate by 300 or 500 spaces, then that means there are no spaces available, and that everybody's going to get rejected on appeals. 99% of people are going to get rejected on appeals. So I call the UT Austin appeals process a lottery. I used to say it was like a lottery, or seems to be a lottery. Now I'm just calling it a straight up lottery. And the takeaway is if you want your lottery ticket, then you may as well submit your appeal. But just like buying a lottery ticket at the gas station, unless you're over 18 or whatever, the person selling you the lottery ticket doesn't care about you. They don't care who you are. Here's your ticket. Good luck. And that's kind of how it works for UT. And in recent years, like nobody got admitted on appeal. In other years, there's like 500 people got in on appeal. And you just, like I said, for those enrollment management reasons, you never know what year it's going to be like. Okay, so you have to write this appeals essay, and a lot of students ask me about it. And let me clear up a few misconceptions right away. So one set of questions is a student will say, look, I was top 7% when I applied, but now I'm like top 5.5% after my fall senior year grades. Does moving into the top 6% qualify me to have grounds for appeal? The answer is no. The state law very clearly explicitly says if you want to be considered for automatic admission, you have to be top 6% by the university's deadline, which for UT is December 1st, which precludes most senior year grades unless you're like on a quarter or trimester system or something weird. Okay. Second thing is, generally speaking, sending in new test scores or updated grades also doesn't make a difference. They're just not going to look at a new SAT or ACT. If you happen to have taken one in the last month or two, they're not really going to look at new grades. That's not really grounds for appeal. So what does new information mean? It's always been very ambiguous. UT's never been clear about it. Even when I worked for UT, even when I was on the appeals committee, like they didn't train us with any sort of clear parameters about what new information actually entails. So I never really know how to advise people. But it's the sort of thing like if you have it, then you know it, and if you have to ask what new information is, you probably don't have it. So new information could be like you got like a national or international level achievement, or you by some strange way have a peer-reviewed publication, or some just wildly I don't know, accomplished award or experience, right? That could be new information. It could also be like some significant special circumstance or loss in the family, or like I don't know, you're from Dallas, but your parents passed away or incarcerated and you need to move with your grandparents in Austin or something. Like maybe there's some sort of very marginal, exceptional special circumstances that might be new information, but like becoming treasurer in National Honor Society is probably not going to be significant new information. And again, whatever you write like doesn't really matter because UT uses it as a lottery. The second grounds for appeal is if an error is made. Okay, an error is not like, oh, you erred UT by not admitting me. Like I'm the most awesome student ever. Like that's not an error. That's just like the admissions process. Error would be, and this does happen once in a blue moon. Like the registrar at the school just completely bungles the transcript, and they put like your rank should be 10, and they put 100, and you didn't realize that until whatever. That does happen maybe like 10 times a year. Mistakes do happen. Sometimes when you send in a test score, the test score doesn't merge correctly with your UTEID record. There are these really weird things, but for the most part, errors just like don't happen. I maybe have like one inquiry a year where it's like a legitimate error might have been made, and it's like, okay, now you should submit an appeal and call into UT. So like 99% of the time, you don't have new information, you don't have an error as part of your application. So it's just like send in the appeal, hope for the best. One really weird thing happened last year. I'm gonna have to address it. It's I didn't believe it. I genuinely didn't believe it until it happened enough times that I like, okay, I'm gonna change my beliefs. So everybody got rejected on appeal last year in early April, pretty much everybody, and maybe a few people got in. But then in like July, or it was like June, and then students were like, I sent in a second appeal, and I'm like, second appeal, like what is that? It's weird. It's like, I thought people were like clowning me or something on Reddit. And then it was like screenshot after screenshot. And I was like, all right, fair enough. And then I like logged into a student's thing, and I'm like, all right, fair enough. Like it really does allow for a second appeal. So some students sent in a second appeal, and then they like got admissions offers across all majors, like in July and even in early August. So I think it was one of these UT just screwed up their enrollment management, and they're like, oh crap, we need to fill 200 more spaces. Let's just like randomly offer kids admissions offers, which is also really weird because the national decision deadline is May 1st, and even for schools that do wait lists, like tell their waitlistees by like June. But yeah, UT was just like, okay, cool, you're in. And I even had some students that were emailing me. They're like, man, I've already put my enrollment deposit at UC San Diego. Like I've already moved to California. What do I do? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. So maybe this weird second appeals thing will happen. I'm just not sure. Oh, final thing about appeals is if you applied for like a really competitive in-demand major, computer science, business, electrical computer engineering, um, yeah, maybe you can be like, I want to request a new major into civil engineering or liberal arts or some less popular, less in-demand major. You can do that. they're not going to grant it. But occasionally some students like will just randomly, even sometimes get offered admissions to majors that they didn't apply for their first or second choice, didn't request in their appeals, and then UT's just like, you're social work. And they're like, what do I do with this? And I'm like, I don't know, go somewhere else. I'm not really sure. So yeah, appeals is just, it's a big mess. The biggest downside about submitting an appeal is it just leaves you in this kind of limbo where you can't move on with the grieving process, like working through that, until you get to acceptance. Like, when you send that appeal, it's almost like the final Hail Mary, like, okay, I'm just going to toss the football into the end zone at the end of the fourth quarter and hope that somebody catches it. That's the biggest downside. And then students will get rejected on appeal, and it kind of like opens up that wound again, And so there are some subtle but very real psychological costs that students pay by just the mere act of submitting an appeal. So on the one hand, I'm like, yeah, get your lottery ticket, but it's also not like a neutral thing in the way that like doing a scratch off, it's kind of a neutral experience. Trying to think if there's anything else with appeals. Might come back to me. I feel like there's one more thing, but I'll move ahead. Final thing I'll cover on this video is the external transfer process. So if you want to go to UT, you're going to need to spend probably a semester, at least a semester or a year away at another university. Going to a Texas university helps because all those credits are guaranteed to transfer. You only need 24 hours or more to be eligible for transfer admission. That can include AP credits claimed at the institution you enroll at. That can include dual credit. And dual credit grades, mind you, that you took in high school, those grades will count towards a UT transfer application. So if you made like B's and C's in your dual credit, like I have kind of bad news, like that's going to count for a future UT transfer attempt. UT will not also grade replace. So you can't like retake English 1301 at your new university and replace a B or a C that you'd made before. The average admitted GPA for a transfer student is around a 3.75, but for some majors it's really, really high, like business probably 3.9, 3.95. For computer science, ECE, biomedical engineering, unless you've got a 4.0, don't even bother. Other majors like communications, liberal arts are a little less intense. The average GPA is probably like a 3.5, 3.6, maybe 3.7, something like that. So the best case, our best advice I can give is, again, like I said at the beginning of this video, make the most of your opportunities at whichever institution you enroll at. Try to continue building that resume and also taking care of business in the classroom. You'll also want to note any prerequisites for business, computer science, engineering majors, natural sciences have some prerequisites that you need to take. One small note, UT has, it sounds insignificant, but it matters. So UT changed their spring deadline this past year to September 1st rather than October 1st. And one reason I think they did that is in previous cycles, what students were doing is they would have like 30 hours from AP or something, and then they would take like a bunch of classes in the summer, and then they would try and apply for spring transfer. And like you can maybe do that, but it's pretty hard. And UT has also said that fall courses for spring 2025 applicants or later, those fall courses in progress don't count towards your 24 hours. And so in the past, a bunch of students would just do like one semester at ACC or Collin College or whatever, and then go and attempt their spring transfer. UT has kind of closed that door. So spring transfers are a little bit less common because it's just very hard to do it immediately after high school. So, and most majors do not admit for the spring. Only some of the non-STEM majors, and I think natural sciences still admits for spring. So most applicants have to spend a year away, and they will try for that fall 2025 cycle. So I work with transfers. That's what I'm doing right now. It's kind of like how I spend my January in addition to fielding these admissions offers that my high school senior clients receive. But I work with transfers every year. I also work with internal transfers, students that want to, at UT want to change their major into something else. And so if you are interested in those services, please reach out to me. There's probably not much I can say. I'll put like links in the description of this video that link to my transfer guide for both external and internal, and so you can see how to meet those prerequisites. So I start taking on those external transfers usually after like the semester concludes, like before the one that they want to enroll at. So like over winter break is when I usually start taking my fall 2025 transfers. I think that's all that I have to say. I will post this video on my Facebook and on Reddit. Please reach out to me, kevin@texadmissions.com, if you have any questions, concerns. Final thing, oh yeah, if you want to call the university, yeah, go for it. It used to be like, oh, like don't call them, like whatever, like they're busy, but whatever, you pay your tax dollars, you paid your application fee. If you want to yell at someone, yell at someone. I don't care. They're not going to change your decision. That person working on the front line, like they have no idea what's going on. Like I guarantee you the person you're calling, like they themselves, if you called them in the last week or two, didn't even know when the decisions were being released. So even internally within like their own bureaucracy, like universities are not always the best at communicating to their own like frontline staff like what's going on. And so unfortunately, like the person you're calling definitely didn't like reject your son or daughter, and they can't change the outcome. They're just gonna literally read off a script like they just used to print out a script like as if you're calling into like I don't know customer complaint at like Time Warner Cable or something. But I don't know if it feels cathartic, go for it. But yeah, last thing I have to say. I wish you guys all the best. For those that gained admission, I hope you choose UT. I think it's an amazing university. And those that didn't gain admission, please take care of yourself and let me know if you have any questions about the enrollment options that you're considering over the next few months.